Question for you. When you feel good, when you feel healthy, do you feel more sexy? When you're taking care of yourself, does it help improve your relationship? Well, you're in the right place today on Sex, Love, and Elephants because I've got an amazing guest and new friend, Oonagh Duncan, for a spirited conversation, just to give you a glimpse of why I love this woman already. Her book is called, spoiler alert, some salty language coming up. Her book is called Healthy as Fuck. In the US, they renamed it Ditch the Diet. Her wonderful 28-day transformation program to help you transform the way you eat, the way you think about food, and with some great 28-minute workouts you can do is called Fit Feels Good. You're going to get a special offer if you choose to join that after listening to this podcast. Her expertise, I would say, is on habit coaching. So you're about to hear an extraordinary conversation between two women who clearly adore each other. Also, you should check out her podcast, Grit, Guts, and Some Woo Woo Shit. And we'll link to that below as well. We'll link below to the episode she interviewed me on her podcast, where you're going to hear a little more behind the scenes of my life, my romance, and my philosophies you might enjoy as well. But without further ado, the wonderful Oonagh Duncan and I are going to talk about habits, health, food, how she went from being an overweight, sedentary, lazy smoker party girl to someone who values fitness, and she's not crazy about it. And you won't hate her. You'll love her. She inspires. She doesn't make you feel like you can't do it, because guess what, everybody? You can. And here we are, Oonagh. I am so delighted you're here. I had an incredibly great time on your podcast. We'll link to that below, everybody. My beautiful Sex, Love, and Elephant audience, I had the pleasure of being a guest on Oonagh's podcast. Click below and listen to that and subscribe to her incredible podcast. But today, baby, worlds are colliding. The fitness, habit coach, fit feels good, gorgeous girl, and the whatever the hell I am these days, what a sex therapist maniac, are going to talk about a number of things. But let's start off with something really intriguing I want to learn more about, which is one of your own wedding vows to your beloved and why it relates to what you do in life as well as in business.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we wrote our own vows, and some of them were kind of, a little bit tongue in cheek. Like, I promise I'll always put the right lid on the Tupperware containers, because that's like a primary source of conflict for us. But one of them, which was very serious, was I promise to do my best to stay healthy for you. And the reason that we have that there is just, you know, I'm trying to think of how personal to get with this. There are people in my life who have married people maybe that are a bit older than them,
Right.
or people who are not older than them, but really didn't take care of themselves. And that will drastically impact your quality of life. If
Right.
your partner is not able to travel, if your partner is not able to enjoy a healthy sex life, if your partner is not able to be energetic and enjoy all the things, it will age you very quickly if your partner is not able to do those things. Also, in staying healthy for your partner, I also think of that as, I will do my best to be the best version of myself so that you're married to someone who is the best version of themselves. It's
Right.
kind of like promising I'm not going to, let myself, just be like, okay, well, now I'm just going to relax and let everything go. It's like, when they say, if you want it to feel like the first date, you got to act like the first date. And part of that is putting your best foot forward. And a big part of that is keeping yourself healthy. And I'm not even just talking about, aesthetically, although of course, if you stay healthy, you're probably going to look a little bit better and younger, but I'm talking about the energy and the vitality that you're bringing into the relationship. So, an image that I sometimes tell my people is that, if you picture two relationships, and in both relationships, they love each other so much. They're so connected. They're each other's best friends. And in one relationship, they're also really freaking tired and
Yeah.
stressed and low energy. And they're just like kind of always feeling stuffed or starving or kind of hungover, or they just can't get out of bed, or they've got insomnia and they've got health issues, and they love each other so much, but that's their physical state. Now
Right.
picture the same couple. They love each other so, so much, and they are in peak physical condition. They are so full of energy and vitality, and they are so, just ready to tackle life because they feel so good in their body. Now, which is going to be the relationship that you want to be in? I'm not even talking about the physical state. I'm talking about what is going to have a better relationship between those two.
Right.
And really, that's why taking care of yourself, your physical vitality, it's absolutely critical for your relationship, is one of my
Right.
primary beliefs.
That's absolutely fantastic, particularly for this audience who are primarily interested in relationship health and well-being. And so often, see if you resonate with this fitness and food coach. The complaint is about, I want them to be
Mm.
healthier. I wish they would eat better. I wish, and it's like, now I'm well acknowledging, as are you, we may be in quite a dichotomous relationship in fitness and food, where one of us eats vegan and beautiful and pure and exercises, and the other one is Hawkins cheesies and whatever, and exercise is actually having to get up and find the remote control. But I'm also talking about a general trend. Do you see this too with your clients, where there's often a lot of wanting the other person to be different and not so much looking in the mirror and saying, who can I be for my partner, which your vow was kind of about? How can I bring my best self to you, my love?
Oh, all the time, all the time. And I will acknowledge this is real that, if someone is trying to, for example, make a big transformation in their health and wellness and their partner is often there's resistance.
Yeah.
And I actually give my people a script because if you have support with the people in your life, it is going to make your life so much easier, right? So, but your people in your life will probably have some resistance because they often don't see a reason for you to change.
Right.
They are like, you're fine, you're
I
good
love you
because
the way you are, babe. You look
I
gorgeous.
totally, I love you the way you are, which is a lovely thing to say, but it's actually sort of fucking irrelevant
Mm,
because it's not about you. It's about me and the changes that I want to make. So I tell people, give people the speech and say, and this is to kids as well, to kids and partners, and say, hey, I am going on this journey. I'm trying to make some changes in my health and wellness. I know you love me exactly the way I am, and I appreciate that so much. But for me to feel good, these are some things that I've got to do. I want you to know I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm just going to start to shift these habits. And this means so much to me because I need to feel this way because blah, blah, blah. So you anchor it into how important this is for you. And then you get really specific. You say, here's specifically what I need from you. Honey, I need you to be available on Thursday nights to look after the kids so that I can go to my salsa dancing class. I
beautiful.
also need you to not offer me a glass of wine when I tell you I've had a bad day. I need you instead, what would be so helpful is if you offered me a foot massage.
Mm,
Kids, I need you to not bitch about the vegetables in our new food. I need you to make your own lunches so I can pack my healthy lunch. So you get really specific and you say, if you guys can help me with this, I'd be so appreciative. Thank you very much. I acknowledge that this is different and we can still have pizza on Friday nights. It's not all going to be crazy.
right.
So reassure them
Beautiful.
because they're going to get scared. Your husband might be like, oh my God, is my partner never going to sit down and have a glass of wine with me ever again? That is a huge loss for them potentially. So you have to
Right.
acknowledge that you're asking something of someone else when you're making these changes as well.
You know what just came to mind is, did you ever watch the TV show This Is Us?
Oh,
It was
yeah.
really, yeah. So
Yep.
Toby and Kate, right?
Yes.
Toby goes on a fitness binge, I think CrossFit, and the
Hmm.
actor himself dropped a lot of weight. And on the show, it was really a mixed experience for each of them on either
Hmm.
side of that, of one person making choices. Neither of us want to make it sound simple. Like we just make a choice to get healthy. It's so bloody hard. But looking at what is our dynamic and what is the feeling of threat for us when our partner wants to make a healthy change. And as you'd well know, and as the couples listening should know, what's our own psychology around? But if you get better, what does that mean? Like, will I be good enough for you anymore when you're svelte and thin or you're eating a very different way than us? The other thing I want to underline really quickly that Oonagh so wisely said is, because we're changing our life, we can't, well, we may expect in our quiet little inner hope voice, but externally it can't be, hey kids, so now you're all eating nothing but what I'm eating, right? You said,
Hmm.
we can still have pizza, whether or not you choose to have the pizza or you make your own healthier version. But changing your behavior is 100% your responsibility. And although we would love our partner to get on board, and sometimes they will, especially if you've got some mad couple skills about really discussing this stuff, but we need to do it without them and without the eye rolling when they reach for a bag of chips and a Coca Cola. You say something about that? That must come up, I presume, in your groups. Oonagh runs an amazing 28-day transformation program. We'll talk a little bit about at the end here, and I hope a lot of you listening will check it out. Maybe the right jump start for you right now. But what do you do with people in your transformation program when they're like, Oonagh, I'm doing all the right things, and I'm really rocking it, and I'm packing my lunches to go to work, and my wife, she's eating all the old things, and she made my favorite cheesecake for the family, and it's killing me. How can I make her stop? What would you say?
Oh, well, I mean, I do think that's where you have the conversation with your wife and you say, listen, you made that for me. And I know you did that out of love. And I appreciate that so much. That's so great. I actually had a situation like this where one of my lovely clients, she had lost so much weight. She was so proud of herself and she was just beaming about her life and all of her accomplishments. And then for Christmas, her husband got her the Cookie of the Month Club.
Oh, snap.
Yes, and the beautiful thing is that her husband was like, "You've done such a good job. I want to reward you and say you
Right.
deserve this." Right?
Right.
And what she thought it was a like, fuck you, I don't believe in you and everything that you're doing. It was a massive source of conflict between them. But this
Right.
is just for her to explain and to see it from, I know Cheryl, you talk about the clock, seeing it from both sides.
Yeah.
So from his side, he was like, "Hey, honey, you're done such a good job. Here's your reward." And for her side, she was like, "You hate me and everything I stand for now." So they had to
Right.
really kind of
Ouch.
talk about what does this mean that you got me this gift, and
Yeah.
tell me what it means from your perspective. And now I'm going to tell you what I need and why this gift didn't land the way you thought it would. And I love and
Right.
appreciate all of your support and your celebrations of my success. And I also want to talk about Kate and Toby for a second,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Do it.
from This Is Us, because the thing about Kate and Toby is they met at a fat support group,
I
people a
think, yeah,
support
like
group.
Overeaters Anonymous sort of idea, right?
Exactly. So it was actually a massive being overweight was a huge part of their initial bond. And it was a
Mhm.
huge part of their identity and their relationship identity. If you consider, and I don't know if this is part of your philosophy, so tell me if it's not, but what I've heard in the past is there's, the one partner, other partner, and then there's the relationship, which is its own entity. And often the
Mhm.
relationship itself will have an identity to it. And for sometimes that identity for them involved being like, we're the fat couple, we are the couple
Mhm.
that always has the best Super Bowl snacks or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For my husband Dylan and I, we met at a bar. We partied so hard. We had the wildest wedding. We actually had quite a couple identity as being the like party loving fun couple. So now we are re-examining our relationship with alcohol, and
Mm,
it's a little bit of figuring out, oh, okay, so if that's not our couple identity, what is our new couple identity?
right. Right. Beautiful. I love this. Okay, this is so cool. I can't believe we talked about This Is Us, but it's what it arose. It's such great. Love that show. I think it's on Netflix now. If you guys never saw it, start at the beginning.
Oh
It'll
yeah.
make you cry.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, gonna get a little personal. I think I have permission to. If not, I'm
Yeah, for
taking it
sure.
anyway. How well in the journey? First of all, how long have you and Dill been together?
Oh, you know what? We're coming up on a big anniversary. I think we're coming up on 15 years of marriage.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah,
Congrats.
thank you.
How has this beautiful wedding vow of, I want to bring my healthy, better self to us,
Mhm.
how has it generally played out? Because when I was doing a little extra research on you and listeners, Una and I had the absolute delightful opportunity just a few days ago to meet in person. Turns out she lives a very short ferry ride from me on Vancouver Island here. And we went for a hike and we were like, blah, 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 shared journey, shared crazy. But I did a little more research today, sweetheart. And apparently, you were a lazy, sedentary smoker, actor, playwright who hated exercise and maybe didn't like good food. So, first of all, I want to know about that because it's so inspiring to know we all begin somewhere. And secondly, was that also who you were, the partying bar couple? Like, were you also not really into the food revolution and fitness that you now so cherish and helps hundreds, if not thousands, of people embrace with you?
This is such a great question. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Cheryl, I was not one of those girls who was doing like cartwheels in the playground and like do gymnastics. Like never, never. I've never been able to do a cartwheel. I've never been one of those like
There.
Here we go. High five.
Yeah.
Yes, I was definitely more of a kid who had dreaded gym class.
Mm,
I would have always rather been reading than doing any. I didn't even want to do skipping rope or whatever. I didn't want to do. I was not ever drawn to doing anything physical and
right.
anything deliberately physical. And as I hit puberty and beyond, the thought of physically trying at something in front of my peers, like I couldn't imagine anything more horrifying. And
Right.
so I really was never drawn to that at all. And then, of course, and then I was a smoker, and then I liked to party, and I didn't want to be one of those fussy people about food. I really was eye rolly about that. It was very much, I like to consider myself a foodie. So I was always like, I'll have the weirdest thing on the menu, and I'm not going to be fussy. You can give me anything. So I really this is all you see me creating this identity, right?
Right.
And then um, there are pros and cons to the identity. A con being that I gradually gained weight. And
Mm,
enough that I was starting to, and it was so secret. This is all very kind of shameful because I identified as a feminist. So I knew that I was supposed to accept my body no matter what, and that
right.
diet culture had no place in my brain. And I was actually a fat activist. And so the thought that I
Mm,
was actually a fat activist who was kind of a little bit not loving my belly was a
right.
huge cognitive dissonance. And I also felt like, wow, I'm really successful in all these areas of my life. And I am slowly gaining this weight that I don't want to, and I can't seem to do anything about it. And I did try to do these things, but I did tried very covertly because I had the shame about it. So I sent away for some green slime. They remember in the back of magazines where they had send a self-addressed envelope to PO
Yeah.
box sketchy
I
sketchy
used to have the
sketch.
sea monkeys.
Yes,
Yeah. In the
exactly.
cartoons or the
Yeah.
comic books.
But the thing is, when you are secretly ashamed of something, you are so prey for those send a self-addressed envelope to that
Right.
back in the day. And today it's to all these freaking Instagram influencers who are telling you to buy protein tea and
Yeah.
start some
Mm,
sketchy all of that. And we are so vulnerable to this because
yeah.
people have so much shame about this area of their
Here
life.
you have, I have one for you. I just made it up, but this will change your life, your mental state, and drop belly fat. Goat placenta. Let's put it out there, and we're going to make $1 billion not helping anyone but our bank account.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I actually was on a podcast the other day where they had a Goop or Poop. They said, is this an actual product sold by Goop? Or is it poop? And some of the products that are actually sold are unfreaking believable.
Hmm.
So anyway, not to denigrate that specific brand, but I will say that it is a
Yeah.
symptom of a larger problem in the fitness and wellness industry and our vulnerability to these things because we have so much shame about it because it's something that we
Right.
feel like we can't control. And that was certainly where I was at. And so I was
Okay.
trying all these things. And it wasn't until I sort of dropped all that and really discovered the habit loop. And I didn't realize that this is what I had discovered. So here was my big fitness revolution. People always want to hear and then I, did the Toby thing and went to CrossFit and become a
Yeah.
CrossFitter.
Yeah.
No, here's what happened. I bought a treadmill off a garage sale. You can always get old fitness equipment because nobody uses it. So I got a treadmill, got some boyfriend to move it into my house. And then I made a deal with myself that I could watch whatever mind rotting horrible TV as long as I was on the treadmill and I didn't have to run or anything like that because I wouldn't have been able to. Just walking and not even pump walking with the arms and all that. None of that. Just walking on the treadmill. And I watched Maury Povich and Jerry Springer.
Oh, say it's not so.
Oh, I did. Oh my gosh. But listen, I was so wanting to know who the father was or, watch Jerry beat up the Nazis or whatever that I would stay on that treadmill because it was just fascinating. So here's what I did. This is why this worked is because in doing so, I created a positive association with exercise because I got to watch all my crappy TV that I never would have indulged in before because, I was this feminist activist intellectual, right?
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, so I'm watching all this crappy TV. And then one day I was and it was just curious. I was I wonder if I could jog for an entire commercial. So remember commercials, right? They were 30 seconds long. And I
Yeah.
wondered,
Yeah, kids, there was these things called commercials.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I was if I bring up the speed to 5 or whatever and I jog for a whole commercial, can I do it? And then it was just like it was just out of a sense of curiosity and playfulness. And with that sense of curiosity and playfulness, I started to like push my envelope totally in the privacy of my own living room, of my own, little ritual. But in doing so, then I started to get a little pleasure out of pushing these things until finally, one day I graduated and I was like, what if I went to a fitness class? Right. And again, that was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And, I'm at the very back and I'm facing the wrong wall half the time and blah, blah, blah. But again, I had no ego attached to it. I was just kind of seeing. And then again, and it was a pleasant experience. So they kept going and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, years later, I'm at the front of the class. And then years later, I'm on the stage and then et cetera, et cetera. But the way that this started is because I use the habit loop, which is trigger. It was, afternoon, no one's around. Jerry Springer's on. Behavior, I go on the treadmill. Reward, I get to know who the paternity test was or whatever. Like I get to have my fix of these really addictive shows. And now when people are like, oh, I just don't feel motivated. I'm like, you will not ever feel motivated. Don't motivate yourself, bribe yourself, make it feel fun and exciting. And that is when you listen to your podcast, you listen to your jams, you do it with a friend, you do anything to make it more fun. And that's your project. And that is a project, Cheryl, because, and I bet this is something you can talk about too. When I tell people you need to figure out a way to make your exercise or your eating salads or whatever they're working on, you need to make this feel so pleasurable. I'm like, so what gives you pleasure? And often there's just like blank. I don't even know anymore. Like what's pleasure? I just got to tick this off my to-do list so I'm not, gaining weight. Like, and there is no pleasure there. It's just a duty. It's heavy. It's something they got it. And that will never work ever, ever, ever. It's like if you try to get people to have sex and it's like a duty. It's that time of the week again. I gotta have that sex. That's never going to work. It's never going to give them the love life they want. And it will never give you the body that you want if you are exercising out of duty, if you're eating salads because you're supposed to. It's never going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is so important psychologically, and it's absolutely genius the way you're presenting it. But just to make sure everybody nails this in, it wasn't the treadmill activity that was enjoyable in any way or motivating. At first, it was the pairing it with the guilty pleasure reward of "Be Still My Heart," Jerry Springer. I had a lot of admiration for you till about 3 minutes ago. No kidding. I will confess,
That's fair.
My guilty TV pleasure, which no one but my little sister knows until now, was Duck Dynasty. Do you know this thing, Duck Dynasty?
Is
oh
it
my God.
Like a trashy?
No.
Okay.
No, it's so freaking humiliating. It's a bunch of duck hunters in, I don't know, I don't remember where, Arkansas or somewhere. It's a reality show, and they're millionaires because they created a duck whistle, whatever, that brings the ducks, and then you shoot the poor little fuzzy things. Anyway, it was their life and their business, and it was so tacky and funny and weird. I was trapped in a hotel room in Toronto between flights, between gigs, and there was nothing on. And I watched one of these things, and then it was like one of those binge days where some low grade TV show was running them over and over. So I hear you. But the thing is, the Duck Dynasty, the Jerry Springer, is the pleasure, not the treadmill itself. And then, see if I got this right. When you turn into, hey, could I jog for a commercial? There was more like a gamification or a challenge or a playfulness. Say a bit about that, because it wasn't you going, I feel organically like I'd like to jog now. Right?
Maybe it was a little bit like that, but it was just it was just more of a really lighthearted, let's see. And I had zero attachment to whether I could or I couldn't. I was just as ready to be like, whew, that backfired. Never going to try jogging again. Who's going to do that? That was what I expected. But then I did, and I jogged for a whole 30 seconds. And I was like, whoa, and then I started to like just this infinitesimal little shift of who I thought I was. Just tiny.
Right.
Just enough to like, oh, I wonder if that's an edge I could test again. And and then we have this, we talked about identity. And so people are like, yeah, but how do I shift my identity to being a fit person? And the truth is that we have this self-perception. I mean, you know more about this than I do 1,000 times, Cheryl, but like we watch ourselves. And so I shifted my identity by watching myself do this thing that I thought was previously impossible. I jogged for 30 seconds. And then it just changed a little tiny bit. And then I watched myself continually get on that stupid treadmill. And then then I was like, I guess I'm an exerciser? Holy moly,
What?
Right. Yeah, and then it just started to like shift so gradually, almost to my surprise, because I watched myself do these things consistently. But the only reason I did these things consistently is because I made them pleasurable.
Right. So
No,
can you repeat again for everybody? I want them taking notes. The habit loop is the 3 steps.
right. Trigger. So, your habit, if you're trying to build a new habit, you need to build a very specific trigger that's going to set off that habit. And the best way to do that is to build it off of something else in your life that is already an established habit that always happens no matter what. So, it's something like when I get up, when I brush my teeth, after I walk the dog, after lunch, after I say my prayers, like whatever it is, those things that you always do, you never even think about them, they happen. All right. And then you build on the behavior. All right. After I brush my teeth, I meditate, for example. And then you're like, okay, now how can I make, because meditation, and you, I'm sure you can talk more about this than I can, Cheryl, like, how can I make it feel rewarding? Right. So you got to figure out a way to make meditation feel rewarding. Or, for example, when I wake up, I drink a big glass of water. And then my reward is after my glass of water, I have my coffee. But here's the deal. I never have my coffee until I've drank my water. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go, if I was allowed to watch Jerry Springer all the time anyway, I never would have got on that treadmill. It's because
Right.
I saved Jerry Springer for only treadmill time that it worked.
Right. You made it conditional.
That's right.
If this, then that. If I do
Exactly.
this, then that. So one of the things I teach people is to have a Friday night date night. It doesn't have to be Friday night. It's just when hubby and I do it. So in a way, the behavior that is already happening is on Friday evenings, we both get home from our respective works, me upstairs, him elsewhere. That always happens. Generally in our life, Friday is a free evening and we both get home. So it's as esoteric as that sounds, like kind of vague. It's not like brushing your teeth. Friday being free and we're both home at say 5 p.m. is the trigger in a way for the behavior of doing a date night and then planning it. The good thing about this is unlike maybe jogging or lifting weights for some folks, date night is inherently pleasurable as well, but we need to build the habit or we fall into the doom state of relationship complacency.
Yeah.
So I love that. So everybody listening can create one habit right now for one tiny moment of fitness or wellness. And I know you've got some 7 tips we may get to, but I also loved, excuse me, that you have your 3 biggies in your TED Talk. The big 3 behaviors: eat your veggies, move your body, get enough sleep.
Are those ones that I identified for the TED Talk? That's interesting. Yeah,
Yep,
in my book.
and I loved them.
Oh, good. Okay. So in my book, I talk about the 7 habits of highly healthy motherfuckers. So this is, this is, there's so much you can do for your health. And I think that because we're all, maybe me more so than other people because of my algorithm, but we're pummeled with all of this health and wellness stuff. Like, oh, okay, I should be eating more goji berries. Oh no, it's celery juice now. And oh my gosh, I got to fix my posture. And oh, I got to remember to get my omega 3s. And oh, I'm sitting too much. And it can just be like, nag, all of these things I need to do. I'm screwing up. I'm not doing all the things. I'm not getting outside enough. What about my vitamin D? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we can freak out about all of that. Or you can focus on these 7 things that matter. Like it's the 80-20 rule. This is the 80% of efficacy, 20% effort, right? 20% effort is going to give you 80% of your results. Are things like
Beautiful.
fill half of every plate with vegetables. If you do that, it takes care of your caloric control. It takes care of your vitamins and nutrients. It takes care of so much. It's just so many more vegetables. Every diet, if you look back to, stupid diets of the 70s and the blah, 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 like every diet cycle we've been through, and we've been through a lot. Atkins, the Zone, oh my gosh, name a diet. Like there's so many that
Keto, low carb, high fat, low fat, no fat.
Exactly. They basically all have the one thing in common of eat way more vegetables than you are. And then they add some little gimmicky thing, but it's basically like vegetables, eat shit tons of vegetables. So fill half of every plate with vegetables as volume is one of them. And then what else did I say in the TED Talk? I talked about, moving consistently. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, right now I feel like the common stuff that everyone says, like, you've got to lift heavy weights. You if you don't like lifting heavy weights, you don't have to lift heavy weights. What you need to do is move your body consistently. Just build
Mhm.
the consistency of the habit. And it can be walking, it can be figure skating, it can be running, it can be swimming, like dance, whatever. Just all you got to do is that consistency. That is 80%. Once you have that consistency down, then great. Then we can start to talk about, all right, well, let's start to work on this modality and that modality. But like until you are consistent, don't work on anything
Mm.
but making it consistent and pleasurable. That's your only job right now,
Mhm.
is make it consistent and pleasurable. That is the
Mhm.
80% effectiveness there. Yeah.
Now, could I ask you to define, because it's probably a bit of a sliding scale, what you mean here by consistent?
Great question. I would say for consistency, I mean, I could probably dredge up the, recommend, I think it's like 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical exercise a week or whatever.
Mm.
What I think is consistent is doing exercise. It depends. So you could do 3 half-hour sessions of intense exercise, or 60 minutes of like walking a day would be
Mhm.
another
Mhm.
guide that I would say is consistent. But I would say between 3 and 5 days a week of moving
Great.
at least half an hour of intense, like you're sweating, you're out of breath, or an
Right.
hour of you are moving enough that you would feel like you'd want to take off a layer at room temperature.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so helpful for people who are like, but what version of the 80 different recommendations of
Good way
consistent?
to.
3 to 5 days a week, 30 minutes hard and or 60 minutes effortful where you'd want to take off a layer.
Yeah.
That's so helpful.
But you don't have to be
And
huffing
to
and
the
puffing.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
make it
want to share a
pleasurable.
quick story. One of my besties, my very besties, were really working hard with body, some diabetes stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And she's very motivated in the fitness department. And she was going to a gym in Vancouver 4 days a week, small group personal training, working out really hard, not doing so well with her food. And I was so impressed and so proud of her that she was getting her ass there in her busy life 4 times a week. And then for various reasons, the gym changed, half closed down, or the trainers she loved moved away. So she decided to shake it up, and she looked in her community also to save money because she's in an industry that's been shut down a lot lately. And so money's not so much there. Founded her local community center a Zumba
Mhm.
class. She's done 2 of them so far. Absolutely freaking loves it. She says she's the worst dancer in the room. There's like these little old ladies that are killing it, and she's like feeling like the big floppy one, and she loves it. And when I contrast how she talks about Zumba class to going to
Hmm.
the gym I think was a real point of pride for her. I was very proud of her because she freaking did it consistently. And that's excellent. And a lot of us should do that a lot of the time. Now she also talks about having a blast
Nice.
and the music and her lighting her up. So she'll probably bring weights back in at home, but it's rejuvenated the move your body part because, as you're saying, pleasure, fun. Oh my goodness. You can have fun while you're also sweating, including horizontally, people. I am a sex therapist. Come on, get that heart rate up. No more nipple, nipple, crotch, good night. 5 minutes. Come on. You can burn a few calories that way too. Just saying.
Oh, absolutely. That is a great exercise. And I will also say that if you are doing exercise that you love and you feel pleasurable, it just gets you in your body. And then you are
Mm,
so much more ready for a healthy physical relationship. Because most of us kind of live like, in our heads, entirely in our bodies. We're just kind of dragging along with us like a,
yeah.
old sock or whatever. And it's all
Yeah.
aching and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
ugh. And then your partner says sex and you're like, what? Because you're living
Yeah.
here. But if you're living
Yep.
like in your body and you've got, and I mean, just physiologically, circulation going
Mm-hmm.
to all parts of the body. I mean, this is
Mm-hmm.
why sexual health is health. You know, and
Yeah.
so this is why staying healthy is a huge part of just being healthy in that area as well.
Beautiful. So you've got 7 tips. We're working on 3 tips right now. Eat your veggies, move your body. And the third one, which I think will surprise a lot of people, does not surprise me, is get enough sleep. You want to say something about that?
Oh my gosh, totally. So, especially because I specialize in women in their 40s and 50s, and it tends to be in a time of life when there are sleep interruptions. And so,
Mm.
and I can't overemphasize what a dramatic impact this can have on your health. And all the women listening to this are like, no shit. No, so because they know if you are
Yeah.
underslept, you're way less likely to want to work out. Plus, you are going to crave energy dense foods because you're looking for energy. So often I have clients who will say, I'm really good during the day. Blah, blah, blah. But then at night, when the kids are finally asleep, or when I finally get to, I've done all my tasks, I've checked all the boxes, I sit down on the couch and then it's just snack time. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I get that. There's a whole bunch going on there. A lot of that is because you've deprived yourself all day. And so you're like, it's my time, it's treat time. But another big part of that, my friends, is that your body is tired. You're tired.
Yeah.
Your body's saying, I need energy. And you're like, fuck you,
Yeah.
body. You're not going to sleep because you haven't had a moment to yourself all day. This is it. And so your body's like, okay, well, you better give me sugar, salt, and fat then, because there's no way
Mhm.
I can stay up for another second longer if you are going to make me stay up. Your body's desperate to go
And
to
we
sleep.
and we've also got decision fatigue, especially if you're relying on the poor advice of willpower all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
You've willpowered a bunch of no's and made a lot of decisions you're proud of, and your decision fatigue is so fatigued
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end of the day. It's like, I could have said no to this at any other time, and now I'm just like, I don't even care.
No, you don't care.
I don't even
Absolutely.
care.
You get the buckets, is what I call it in my book.
Yeah.
Buckets.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other thing is that a lot of people really underestimate how much sleep they need to function. So for
Mhm.
example, there's so many, and we're both in the entrepreneur world where there's a little bit of like machismo about hardcore work
Mhm.
ethic, and I who needs sleep? I'll sleep next lifetime or whatever. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, I only need hours of sleep, and then I get up and I cold plunge, and then I run a marathon. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
God, snore. But anyway, I will say that most of those people are about as full of shit as the people who are leaving the party be like, I'm fine to drive. Like, and I'm and I'm actually saying that very realistically, because they've done studies of people who are on chronically about 5 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Their cognitive function, their reaction time is about the same as people who are like legally around the limit of
Yeah.
alcohol to drive. You are not as smart as you think you are when you are sleep deprived. It's the same thing as having a
So
couple of
true.
drinks. You're like, oh, I'm not drunk, but you're still kind of talking a little louder. You're still a little bit less inhibited. You might not
Right.
realize it, but you are. And same thing as having less sleep. You're not at your best and you don't even realize it.
No, as I like to say to folks when I used to see private practice clients, is there's a reason sleep deprivation is literally used as torture
Mm-hmm.
to break people down when you want them to just collapse and tell you everything you want. That's a pretty sobering thing to hear, but it's accurate. So everybody, seriously, maybe you didn't necessarily think that this goddess of fitness and food and many other things would say sleep more,
Mm.
but also, don't you just want to smack the people that get by on 5 hours sleep? Not because they do, but I'm like, imagine how great you'd be if you got 7 or 8.
Oh yeah.
Imagine how
Exactly.
much more clarity,
Yeah.
how much more breathing space in between, maybe in addition to the intensity and the admirable accomplishments, you'd feel better, be calmer, and you'd actually complete more in a shorter period of time
Mm-hmm.
because your brain function would be so much better. So, better sleep. Do a whole other podcast on that. I think we probably should.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there we go. We've got 3 of your many tips. Eat your veggies, move your body, get enough sleep. And we're big on 3s here at Sex, Love, and Elephants because my model is, the 3 keys to a great relationship is intimacy, communication, and conflict resolution, thrill, adventure, cherishing your partner, planning dates, having fun, and sensuality, attending to your sensual life. But I am more than happy to hear more of your habits because you have 7 of them. If there's any more you want to share for today, some or all of them, because people that listen to this podcast are interested in actually doing the work to create change. That's why I adore this audience and people who aren't like, yeah, I know that sounds really good, but, and of course, we can
Mm-hmm.
all feel that way, everybody, including me for sure. I want to, but at some point, when you want to create a new habit, start with a small one. Una's giving you some great tips on how to anchor it to something you already do.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about that you just said there. One, when you hear yourself say, oh, yes, I want to, but, ooh, that's where the juiciness happens, because the next thought that happens after the but, that's your limiting belief. Yay! Now you know
Yay!
what it is. So, for example, if you're like, oh, yeah, I know, I really want to get in shape, but I'm in menopause, so you just can't get in shape after
Mm.
menopause. Ding, ding. So, this is your awesome opportunity to go ahead and Google postmenopausal women in wicked shape. And then you're going to be like, whoa, damn, that is
Ah,
100% possible, right? So, you're just putting a little crack in your belief. And then you're going to hear yourself, yeah, but they have amazing genetics or whatever. And then you could be like, Google it, like, who do I know who doesn't have amazing genetics who's achieved this? Yeah, but they don't have a crazy job like I do. However, so it's great because, I have a chapter of my book called Break Up With Your Bullshit. And it's just, and I'm not, if anyone's listening to this and they're like, oh, but that's all true. And you're taking away, like you're picking on me. I don't mean to pick on you at all. Cause we all do this. I do this. I've watched myself do this. This is why I'm talking about it.
I do it too.
We all do it.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I'm calling it bullshit, or you can call it like, belief systems or, your bullshit story or something like that. It's just great because then you can kind of separate and be like, oh, that's what I believe. And as long as I believe that postmenopausal women can't get in wicked shape, of course I'm never going to be motivated to go for longer than a week.
Yeah.
As beautiful as my one of my amazing therapists said, it's AFGO. It's another fucking growth opportunity. So
Yes.
you get to figure out how you get to shine a light on your limiting belief, which is amazing. The other thing that you brought up that I wanted to say, make it so small. So if people are like, if you ever hear yourself thinking, I'm not motivated enough. Well, one, I'm like, okay, no, it's not that you're not motivated enough. It's probably either that you've made it too big, way too big. You've decided I'm going to run a 5K every day or whatever. And really, it should be like, okay, and the days that you want to run 5K, that's amazing. On those days when you're like, I'm ready to go. And that will not be every day. Not for anyone will that be every day. And on the days that it's not, when you're like, oh, it's raining, my legs still hurt from last time, blah, 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 you're still going to lace up your runners. This is because it's a habit, right? Trigger. It's 6 p.m. Behavior. I go for a run. Reward. I listen to my podcast. I talk to my girlfriends, whatever it is, right? So if you get the trigger, it's 6 p.m. Behavior, I don't want to go for my run, but you need to complete that habit loop because every time you complete the loop, you're moving towards automaticity, towards this just being something you do automatically. You don't even think about it. It's just who you are, right? But every time you get the behavior, the trigger, and you don't do the behavior, if you're like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, you are moving away from automaticity. You are moving towards this always having something that you have to try to do, to remember to do, to whatever. And that's just mental load we just don't have access of, right? So make it small. So the days you can't deal, just go out for a walk. Just even put on your runners. Just even do a few stretches in your living room. Make it as small so that it would be absurd to listen to your bullshit telling you don't have to do it today because it's so stupidly small. Okay.
I love that. So a couple things that came up. One, when you're talking about, but I'm, menopausal, but they've got better genetics, but they don't have a crazy life and 3 teenagers. Get off your butts. Basically, that's what we all need to do, people. Get off your butts. The other language I want to put out to complement what you're saying is I talk about it as there's reasons and there are excuses, right? Reasons are, I've got a huge presentation due in 2 weeks and I'm working 12-hour days and my kids got the flu and I'm needing to nurse them extra. Those are legit reasons, but it's a very easy thing to tip that into an excuse. Therefore, I can't walk around the block. That's the bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
That's true.
The reason's legit, but the excuse, therefore I won't do the thing I've committed to, is the bullshit. So instead, I love what you're saying. Let's say I work 12 hours today and I'm nursing my sick kid. And maybe if there's a partner, they're away on business, they can't help. But the kid's old enough, they can be left alone. I could say, okay, honey, I'm going to go for about 20 minutes, just going to walk around the block a couple times. I'm going to be back. And then there's this incredible inner sense of what, everybody? Accomplishment, integrity. I walked around the block a couple times instead of using my reason as an excuse to do nothing.
Yeah.
So love that.
Exactly. And every time you do it, you're solidifying this identity of, oh, you're watching yourself. I'm someone who does what she says she's going to do. I am an athlete who goes out when it's raining. I'm someone who just does this thing. And that is the most powerful thing. When you start to build that identity, say people don't get their goals, they get their identities, right? And this is what I tell people, how you know if you're just doing like a diet or if this is a real identity, if it's really your habits, if it's really your lifestyle, if it's really an identity, here's a clue. So if I was to say, are you going to eat, if you're saying like, I'm eating healthy, you'd be like, okay, great. Are you going to eat healthy 3 Tuesdays from now? And if your answer is like, I don't know, like it depends on what's going on. Like if I have groceries, then yeah, probably, or like blah, blah, blah. But if you are someone who just always eats healthy, you're going to be like, Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
do. So why wouldn't I? It'd be like, are you going to brush your teeth 3 Tuesdays from now? Almost everyone would be like, of course I am.
Yeah.
Right.
That is so great. I want to underline that as well. I did a wellness program for the last 6 months, which has been really tremendously helpful because I was really sick, stress sick, and put on a lot of weight because of it. Couldn't lose the weight because of the cortisol, which was accurate at that time medically. And through the program, I used to sometimes drink Coca-Cola, which is an evil drink, but it would help me, especially if I like needed to go on stage and I was super
Mm,
tired because I don't drink coffee.
mm,
I'd have a Coke. The sugar, the caffeine, bing, Cheryl's on, boom, boom, boom. The crash was
mm,
catastrophic. And through that program, I just became someone whose identity is simply, I don't drink Coke. It's
mm.
a simple example, but it's so different, as you well know. And I want our listeners to know to say, occasionally I indulge in a Coke and I'm okay with it, which is an okay choice. For me, it works much better. I just simply don't. I just don't.
Yeah, this is really interesting. This is a Gretchen Rubin concept, actually. She says there's some people who are moderators and some people are abstainers. So for some of my
Oh,
clients,
yeah.
they really would very much rebel if I said never eat French fries again. They would be
Yeah.
like, when they eat all the French
Yeah.
fries,
Yeah.
right? Or they would
Yeah.
like, yeah, binge on French fries and be like, okay, well, I'll start my no French fries thing tomorrow. So there's people who would really not work with that. However, they're totally fine to have 3 French fries. They're the kind of people who could have 3 French fries off someone else's plate and be like, I'm good. I don't want it anymore. They don't have to
And
have a
that
no
was
French.
satisfying and enjoyable. And I'm glad I chose to do it. Thank you for that language. Love Gretchen. Abstinent people and moderator people. Yeah, I'm an abstinent person, not because I'm afraid I'll binge and slide. I don't tend to do that when I've decided I have a certain identity. So I could have one Coca-Cola, but it's easier for me to say, particularly because I think that has just such a non-food. I'm like, I don't drink Coke.
Yeah.
It's not about the Coke necessarily, people. It's about this identity of choosing whether this is who you are, or whether it's a thing you're doing because it's good for you and you're doing it for this week.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is, in terms of, I loved what you said about identity. The couples I work with, whether it's in the 3-month program or here on the podcast or elsewhere, one of my main goals is to develop in all of us an identity that I am someone that values my relationship and I make passion a priority.
Mm.
That's just who I am. It's who we are. It doesn't mean we don't neglect it for a month and a half when we're moving your aging parent into our house and things are upside down. But overall, it's so much who we've become that when we've got mom or dad settled and things are a little less chaotic, we're going to immediately be back on our date nights or our special moments. And even during that time, they say 6 weeks of really toughness, maybe in 2 different places, we still have these sweet texts we send that take 3 minutes, or we have a 3 breath hug if we're in the same
Mm.
place. Your identity being, we are people, or I am a person, because you can't drag your partner along on the relationship ride. That is their journey. But what I love is the ideal when we can move toward it, which is both of us in our own unique ways are people who value our relationship enough to make it intentional and do stuff about it. Like we're talking about your health,
Yeah.
your fitness, your well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. All right. So habits, small ones, anchoring them to things that already happen in your day, watching out for reasons that are legit that become excuses, all the buts and why it won't work for me. And also, like you, I have a huge soft heart for all of us and the realities of a lot of this. We might well be exhausted, run down, pulled in many directions, not have a great deal of control of changing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But within that, can you stand up while you're watching Netflix and stretch for 2
Yeah.
minutes? Can you pause something and walk and look out a window and take 3 deep breaths? What little moments of self-care can you take while you're maybe building towards more substantial moments or commitments of health and wellness? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or any ways to help people with that.
Well, I just want to remind people that it's not an all or nothing switch that you turn on or off. It's like a dial that you turn up or down depending on what's going on. So a lot of times people are like, oh, what's the point if I can't go for my full run? I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit on the couch. And like you're saying,
Right.
let's do a stretch or something like that. And you know, it's like with your relationship, like, oh, we can't have sex, the kids are around, but you still have like a little flirty bum tap. You know, like there's always
Yes.
little fun things you can do, little ways that you can remind yourself, or in this case, your partner, who you are, what your intentions are. You know, so you can say like, right, when I watch TV, I'm stretching. When I can't go for a run, I do these little things. So really, it's just remembering, don't go all or nothing on these things. If you do have the fries, you don't have to have all the fries. You can have a couple of fries.
Mhm.
And that's not like, whoa, blew my diet now. You know, it's
No.
just like they're just a couple of fries. That does not change who you are. You're a healthy person.
And enjoy the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Eat them slowly and go, if it's your thing and you find it satisfying, enjoy the hell out of
Yeah.
them. Like mindful eating, like those were
Yeah.
delicious. Hubby and I were in Mexico for 2 weeks, as you know, just very recently. And we went to the place where we were married, and we went to the place we honeymooned, and we went to this restaurant with the world's most erotic French
No.
toast. It is stuffed with like this creamy mixture of passion fruit and coconut. Unbelievable. Now, I don't eat dairy, don't eat grain, etc., basically at all, with the occasional chosen exception. So hubby had the French toast, and I had 2 bites of it, and I was completely and utterly
Mm.
satisfied. It was as gorgeous as I remembered, even though it's products I don't usually consume much. And I savored those bites, and I was completely satiated,
Yeah.
where I would have wanted, a platter full
Right.
before,
Yeah.
and eaten it more mindlessly, and ended up kind of bloated and unwell and a bit of a sugar buzz afterward. So enjoy the hell out of the fries,
Ah.
choose them mindfully, and don't just have them because they're there.
And just remember, it's not all or nothing. If you get into the all or nothing mindset, what happens then is people tend to do the thing where they bin or they like, and it's people. And it's so interesting. The people who are the hardest to create new habits are actually people who are really type A achiever types. They really have a lot of
Mm.
trouble designing and sticking with new habits because they're so all or nothing, because they won't allow the stretch instead of the run, because they think, okay, if I have one fry, then I'm at reset. I'm back at
Right.
zero.
I
I have to
failed.
start
I
again.
blew it.
And then they'll have
Mm.
like, a weekend where they go and then they'll start again on Monday. And so I'm just saying it's not like that. It's a dial that you turn up and down. It's not a switch that goes on and off. It's never all or nothing. And it's just all these little incremental choices. And every single choice counts. Every single choice counts. And no choice is going to be a make or break.
That is so brilliant, everybody. Listen to the dial. I hadn't heard it put that way, Una. It's some of your unique brilliance is the languaging and the concepts you use. I've never heard it put that way, and it's so helpful. Dial up, dial down. Maybe the dial flatlines a little bit. You get to move it as much as seems possible today, and then maybe a tiny little bit more. Okay, so I'd love to keep going for many more hours. I'm sure you'll be back on this podcast, but I would like to, and this is out of left field, everybody. Una doesn't know I'm going to do this. Be afraid, be very afraid. I'd like to ask you a couple of relationship advice questions from your lived experience as a longer term partner to your beautiful partner. What would you say is your best relationship quality in your romantic relationship with your hubs? What is your best quality?
Oh, we are super playful all the time. We're so goofy and
Mhm.
we like we're playful and flirty. We play fight. Sometimes if we're legit angry, we'll like play fight with each other and like wrestle on the bed and it's really funny. Um I will flash him or moon him and he will moon me. Like we are so ridiculous and basically we make each other laugh all the time and we're super goofy and playful.
So great. I know that you were at a Tony Robbins event once because that's where we first were in the same room. I didn't realize it. I was teaching some fun and crazy sex stuff, and you were there, as you've told me when we met now. And there's a Tony Robbins teacher called Joseph McClendon III, who you've probably seen, and he's got a book called Assitude. And my favorite thing I've ever learned about how to change your state is shake your
Oh yeah.
ass. So Joseph's like, stand up and just
Yeah.
shake your ass. So that's one my hubs and I do, especially if the blonde one, that would be me, is a bit crabby or touchy or off. He's like, baby, shake your ass.
Nice.
So joy. I love that. Now, of course, you're probably anticipating, what would you say is your worst or least effective or more of a pain point quality as a couple or in your relationship these days, maybe, or it may be a historic one that you've improved? Either is fine.
Yeah, I would say that when we get into discussions, they tend to be cyclical. So we haven't found
Mhm.
a great way to be like, we need to put a pin in this now without the other person feeling like you mic dropped me. So that's a skill that we're
Uh-huh.
learning to be like, hey, this conversation is going nowhere. And,
Right.
I don't think we're going to agree on this. And
Right.
I hear your point, you hear my point. Like we're just going to keep repeating our points to each other. And so
Right.
I know that that cycle's got to end, but I don't know how to end it without being like, I'm out. And
Right.
make it feel like a
Right.
mic drop.
That is such an articulate description of something 90% of people listening now relate
Mm,
to. They're called different things in the biz, but a perpetual problem, a repeating problem. It's, the everything in the kitchen sink. We've had the same damn argument so many
yeah.
times and we can't get out of it. There are some techniques to help with that. The other side of the clock helps. And another exercise I and people teach in different ways, but I'll talk about those in a future podcast. I'll send you the
Yeah,
link.
thanks.
Make your hubby listen
All
to it too,
right.
because you shouldn't be doing all the heavy lifting. What is, I know you've got two glorious kids. Let's say they're, how old are your kids
11 and
these days?
13. Two boys.
Okay, so we're getting there. We're getting there. So when the boys are, looking into their own romantic interests and him, her, they, whomever draws their interest, what would be, let's fast forward it. Let's say they're like more in their early 20s and they're maybe getting serious about love and commitment in some way that works for them. What would be one of your best romantic or relationship tips you would pass on to your kids or anybody else you cared about?
Mm. Wow. What would I say? I mean, at that age, geez, what would I say? Um, I mean, I think in general, a good rule of thumb is that most people think about themselves too much and not the other person. And I mean that in a really, like, we are watching ourselves and critiquing ourselves. And does he like me? Or am I good enough? Or what did he think that was weird? And is he blah, blah, blah? And most of the time, like, none of that is happening. And if you can focus
Yeah.
on them and being genuinely curious about them and what makes them tick and what brings them joy and really like take the focus off yourself, I think that you are going to be so much more fascinating if you're actually genuinely
Mm,
interested in them and what makes them tick and you're so curious. I mean, that's what's going to make someone fall in love with you. But if you're like constantly
mm.
trying to angle and pose and be perfect and like you are just going to get so stressed out, you're going to be so unappealing. And so I would just say don't do just focus on them. Don't worry about yourself. And then you are going to absolutely magnet the right people if you're just shining your light bright on other people versus watching yourself the whole time.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I titled my signature program Become Passion. And it's really to that point you so wisely just put forward. Who can I become?
Mm,
Who can I become for you, like your wedding vows in a lot of ways? Who can I become? How can I be a better partner? Would I date me now?
yeah.
10 years in, 15 years in, 20 years in? Are we being the great partner or are we wanting the other person to change? So your kids are lucky. They're going to get some wise advice. One final question. What is one thing you deeply appreciate about your mate?
Oh, oh,
I suspect there's more than one,
yeah.
but what arises one
Oh
thing?
no, he's so funny, and he makes everything like going to the grocery store with Dill is like as fun as going on an adventure with like it's really he's so like okay, when he picks me up at the airport, he will often hide behind one of those fake plants and jump out. And so many times it's really embarrassing, but then I just die. Like, so, yes, so playful, so funny, so ridiculous. Like he just makes life way more fun. And he's a
Oh,
wicked
wow.
DJ. So he always knows like perfect song to put on in the car and gets the mood exactly right, which is a really good quality to have in a partner.
Dude, I have kind of a little crush on your hubs right now. It's platonic,
That's
but
fun.
just got it. All right. Well, beautiful. Well, that brings us to my regret, I must say. It's been absolutely delightful toward the end of our program. And now I know everybody listening is going to be pretty excited to follow you. I want to give a big shout out to your podcast, to your book. I mentioned those in those intro. We're going to link to the podcast I was on below so you can find Oonagh's podcast. But where can people find you? And I want them to know about your 28-day transformation challenge. Maybe you could give us the 2 minutes on that and where they can find you to follow up if they want to be in your world, getting this kind of amazing support to create maybe small but life-changing habits, one habit at a time.
Amazing. Well, okay. So I'm going to set up a special thing at fitfeelsgood.com/Cheryl. And there I'm going to have a free training for you where it will walk you through step by step the process of picking the keystone habits that are going to make the most difference for you and really building out that habit loop for yourself and making it feel rewarding and awesome. And if you want, there's going to be an offer for my 28-day transformation program. I'm going to give you guys a wicked discount. So it's at fitfeelsgood.com/Cheryl. And the 28-day transformation program, dudes, I am going to take you from, yin yoga to doing amazing CrossFit things that are going to surprise the shit out of you that you can do. I'm going to take you through a nutritional program that this is all designed by a dietitian that's going to really strip you down to exactly the nutrients that you need. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build up from there, and we're going to really get to know your body, how different foods affect you, and the results that people have during this transformation process. The most common thing that people say is, I have accomplished in the last month what I've been trying to accomplish in 10 years. And it really, and this is for people who are in perimenopause and menopause and people who have tried everything. I got you. And you are also going to have access to a dietitian, physiotherapist. You're going to have all of that is included. And I got you every step of the way.
It's so incredible. The price point is so low compared to what you would pay for a personal trainer, et cetera. And the link is wherever you're listening to this podcast. The link is in the show notes, but can you repeat it once more in case they're having trouble finding a clickable link because they're on the top of a mountain right now? Repeat what that link is going to be.
Oh, you're so sweet. It's fitfeelsgood.com/Cheryl.
There you go. CHERYL. All right, my friends. Well, this brings us to this episode's Love Bite. Are you ready? I know that you are. Great relationship starts with a great you. Take care of your body, take care of your sleep, take care of your food to take care of your love. It's been an absolutely incredible pleasure, Oonagh. I look forward to some social hikes again and having you back on the podcast if you'll come back and share more of your wisdom. And everybody, I really, truly, if you're a long-term listener, this is episode, I think, 149, 150. I've had all of 4 guests on so far, and I don't promote people's stuff. And then, I'm not promoting per se. I know brilliance when I see it. I know programs that are effective when I see and experience them. I know my 3-month couples program is effective. I strongly encourage you, if this resonates for you, to check out Oonagh's stuff. And maybe you'll be emailing me and her in 28 days and telling us about your new relationship with yourself and how it's influencing your relationship with your sweetheart. Thanks so much, my dear.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
What a joy. We'll see you soon.